when I look at Republican and Democratic conventions, I think, like, what are we going through all this nonsense for, right? Because it's all highly scripted. Now, in the old days, there was a reason for the convention. The convention was we all get together and try to figure out who the hell our president should be, right? And then there would be delegates, but it would be a mess, and there was rules, and it was interesting. And sometimes the candidate who came in leading wouldn't necessarily come out with the nomination, and they would have 15 different votes. Now, this goes way back in history, but, you know, even through the 1960s, we had real conventions where we had real drama. Now, there's no drama at all. Everybody knows. And, like, I love the moment where, oh, New Jersey just put Mitt Romney over the top, and he will be the nominee. Oh, really? You don't say. Yeah, we only knew that, I don't know, how many months ago? Come on. And so, as I look at this, I have the tendency to want to say, what are we all kidding around about? This is a giant marketing campaign. But it turns out that there are some real numbers as to why these conventions matter a lot. And the main reason behind it is because this is when most Americans start paying attention. It is about the marketing campaign. In fact, let me give you numbers. Pew Research Center noticed that 4 years ago, for example, 28% of Americans before the convention say that they were paying attention to the race. Right after the conventions, that number jumped to 47%. And that is true of many of the recent conventions. There's this huge bump up where they go, oh, okay, all right, let me check out a couple of speeches, let me see what, you know, the two candidates say, and they start paying attention. So that makes sense. Now, mind you, those bumps that you're going to see in the polling and the attention they're paying gets less and less every year. One, because it's less relevant, but two, it's because the television audience is being divided. In the old days, all the networks would cover it, and you didn't have many other choices, so you were forced to watch all these political speeches. Now, you don't have to watch it, and a lot of people have already gotten the memo, hey, the money decides the elections, not our votes. They might not know it specifically when it comes to the polling, etc., but they have that gut sense, so it makes it also easier to turn off this stuff. But nonetheless, listen to this. It turns out that 4 times since 1988, according to political scientists Robert Erickson and Christopher Leeson, the leader in the polls immediately before the conventions emerged trailing after the convention and went on to lose the popular vote. So 4 times since 1988. Now that's a lot. It happened with George W. Bush in 2004, George H.W. Bush in 88, Clinton in 92, and Al Gore, of course, also won the popular vote in 2000, right? And what happens is, coming in, the other guy's leading, they watch the conventions, they watch their arguments, and they go, no, I like the other guy better. And then 2 weeks after, they never lose the lead. Not after the debates, not after all the news, not after the heavy campaigning and the ads. They don't lose the lead. So that makes you realize, look, at least in the past and in the recent past, it has mattered a lot. One more amazing fact about that. They pulled polls over the last 15 elections and found that no candidate who was behind 2 weeks after the conventions has come back to win the popular vote. Now, that's amazing. Last 15 elections, 2 weeks after the convention, if you're behind, you're done, son. Stick a fork in you. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen in this election. Of course, historical patterns are important and relevant. They're not all important, but it is obviously a huge indicator. So the American people will pay a lot more attention to these conventions than they do to other things. They will listen to some of the speeches. Obviously, the main candidate speeches are the most important. At the end, they will probably make their decision. And apparently, 2 weeks after the conventions, they usually won't change their mind. That's why these conventions are actually a lot more important than we realize, given their highly scripted and otherwise generally useless